Welcome, Danielle. Very good to meet you.
Very good to meet you too, Joseph.
I don't want to meet you. Why did I say that? I didn't mean that. Okay, let's start again. One more time.
Yes.
Second time's a charm. Well, that was
Feel
one.
it.
Anyways, right?
Yeah, so you got to get the first one out now that you've met
I would have
me.
edited it out anyways and just did the intro, but you flow
I
it.
kind of like your freestyle right there. I'm going to met you.
Right?
All right. Okay, hold on. Let me just get the hair in place. All right.
Yes. Welcome, everybody. Today is an exciting day. We have here Danielle Lin, my client, friend, and also a member of my Flow-Based Prosperity group coaching and mastermind service. As you know, I made Flow a priority in 2017. Danielle has also made Flow a priority, and she lives a wonderful life. We're actually in her forest home, which she's going to discuss today. I would like to explore with you today Danielle's style of living in the flow. And I trust that you will find this conversation to be very insightful, very inspiring, and very beneficial. Welcome, Danielle.
Well, thank you, Joseph. I feel very welcome, and I'm excited to have this conversation with you and our friends here.
So, Danielle, when her and I met, which was last year, she had a YouTube channel and she was doing TikTok videos, and you had a few hundred subscribers on your YouTube,
About
right?
900 subscribers, yeah.
900. And we have been working together. We did one-on-one, and then she became a member of Flow-Based Prosperity. And currently your channel is at 17,000 subscribers, right?
Yes, that is correct.
So what we found is through the conversations that we had, Danielle naturally tended to gravitate to a very specific style of making videos. And through the process, she created wonderful videos, She also created additional services to offer, because what were you doing prior to that?
Well, prior to that, I have been, you could call it a business strategist. So I worked with a lot of businesses across the world to help them effectively scale their companies. So that's what I was doing before.
So she was doing that, and then we connected, and she intuitively found a way of communicating the message that we all share and encourage sharing here. And so today I would like to explore with you how this came about, which is what I would call the magic path of intuition. Would you say that?
I would say that is quite so.
All right. So what kicked off this idea to get in contact with me and the YouTube channel journey that came as a result of it? Or were you thinking about it prior, or did it happen after our conversations? How did that play out?
Oh, I'd love to share that with you. It's a great story. So I actually had originally started the YouTube channel about, let's say, I'm thinking it was about 7 or 8 years ago. But when I was posting up content, it was very sporadic. So I was putting messages out there just sort of when I felt like doing it. Sometimes I'd post regularly. Sometimes it was like once a year. Around the time I first found your videos was actually at the start of, I would say, 2023. So January 2023. It was very synchronistic. This might shock you, but very synchronistic.
We remain in the synchronistic flow. As I always say, as we remain in our flow, everything appears synchronistically to be in synchronicity, which is also what you talk about in your channel.
Yes.
By the way, this is a 2-part discussion. So in the link in the description, there's a video of the second part that we're doing together in relation to this conversation here, maybe different perspectives. So I recommend you check out for that discussion, and also the wonderful information that she's put out based on her experience as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So around the start of 2023, I had arrived at a place in my journey where I would say, not only was I doing business strategy work, but I actually had built a whole agency. So I built a marketing agency in which I was scaling many businesses and found a great deal of success doing so. But around 2022, 2023.
And it was a great deal of success.
Yes.
Considerable amount, let's say.
Yes. Well, to be clear, like the agency did work with and scale in the millions of dollars. So we worked with clients all around the world and grew their businesses and their revenue significantly.
Mosquito.
Was giving me kisses.
You said you don't get bit by mosquitoes, so
That's true.
I should have just left it there just to see.
Just to find out if the theory
They just hang out. You just visit your meat.
I know, doing the design. So I helped scale a considerable many businesses, but I arrived at this juncture where I had achieved a certain level of success that I had set out for. Mm-hmm. But I started asking myself the question, well, I'm scaling businesses, so it's an amplification. I'm amplifying things in the world.
Yeah.
What am I actually amplifying in the world? And that brought me to a really interesting inquiry, one where I started to ask myself, well, where am I placing my focus? Where am I putting energy out into the world? What am I investing in with my time and my energy? And I worked with many amazing people doing really amazing things. And I also realized that there was a level of coherence that I could go even deeper with when it came to aligning with what we call now flow-based living. Because at the time, I was constructing a life, I think a lot of people in the entrepreneurial space talk about this, build this kind of business so you can live this kind of life, which is what I did. So I built a business that could afford me a certain kind of life. But then I started to find areas of the business and life that seemed to create some stress in the business. And so I didn't quite have the life experience that I was thinking of. So as I was pondering all of these pieces, I had come across your channel at the beginning of that year. And I started to listen to the channel. And what really grabbed me initially was discussions on subconscious awareness. Now, coincidentally, at the time, I actually had completed my hypnotherapy training. So I'm also a certified hypnotherapist. But I loved the way you specifically spoke about subconscious understanding, because I recognized that not only were you speaking in a very clear and resonant way, but you spoke in a way in which both my conscious self and my subconscious self was receptive. What also stood out to me was I'm like, here is a guy on YouTube who isn't doing, what everyone else is saying, oh, this is what you have to do. You have to be boisterous, do fast cuts. You were doing it your way. And there was clearly a strong reception to it, not just from myself, but to all those who were reaching out and connecting with you. So as I was tuning in, I committed very deeply to my subconscious journey. I committed very deeply to understanding where I was choosing to place my focus. And that accumulated with a desire to identify a mentor, an embodied mentor, someone who I felt embodied this way of living that wasn't just about flow, but it was also about cohesion in business and life as a way of being. So I talked to a few different people, and then one day I was meditating and one of your videos popped up, and I thought to myself, well, it'd be wonderful to talk to Joseph one day. And this thought popped in my head, what about now? And I was like, what about now? And at that exact moment, I pulled up your YouTube. I found your site. I couldn't see any other place other than contact form. I contacted you. Mm-hmm. And there we go. And so I felt this strong inspiration, went all in. Actually, this is a fun story, Joseph. I don't know if I mentioned this to you. I wrote down at one point, because I felt such resonance, I said, I would like to get to the point where one day Joseph and I are friends. And I actually wrote that down.
And it happened.
And so it is.
And I've been enjoying a wonderful time. Thank you for inviting me to your forest home.
Absolutely.
It's a wonderful energy. Being in nature, I have also been reconnecting back with nature. A part of it I mentioned on the channel, being in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, making flow a priority, and also snowboarding allowed me to connect with the mountain energy. So here we are now, further connecting with the mountain energy, and it's a lot of fun. Part of it includes mosquitoes.
They're giving us all the kisses.
So thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me and inviting us to this conversation and your gracious home here. So this is actually your backyard.
Yes.
There's a gate and you can enter this whole forest area, which is all your area here.
Yes.
So you also make videos on your
do.
YouTube channel from here. This is actually one of the locations that you film, and
Yes.
many resonate very deeply. I can see from the comments with the message that you're sharing, which is living this flow-based way, which, like you said, is a harmony between having a wonderful business, which is deeply fulfilling, and also it spreads the message, which benefits everyone. And it's joyous, fun, and you get to enjoy wonderful adventures, like the adventures that we've had thus far. And we've also hung out in California,
Yes.
and you've connected with members from the Flow-Based Prosperity Group, and everyone in the Flow-Based Prosperity Group is connecting and hanging out with each other all over the world. That's a lot of fun, and we're meeting up as well. So all of this is something that happened as you started to follow this magic path of intuition, which is, we can call it an alchemical path. It's something that you talk about. How do you relate to what I'm saying?
Very much so. Very much so. This experience that we find ourselves in right now, I perceive, is a result of a full embodied commitment to flow.
Yes. So it's interesting. One word, flow, and everything happens. Everything happens ideally automatically while you're in flow. So what do you do to, or let's go even a step further.
Ooh, I like that. All right.
Or prior. You had an insight to put out the videos
Yes.
by tuning in more to intuition and the flow, and then communicating the flow. And then your channel started to grow as people started to resonate with that message. And one of the reasons why I believe is I believe everybody's looking for this, which is to discover where their flow is and live from their flow, which is always there. They recalibrate to that. You did it, and then you started inspiring people on your channel to do it. How did that come about, where you recalibrated back to your flow? How did you do it?
Yes. Well, great question. I would say the primary focal point here, the seed, is actually exactly what I teach on the channel, which is to choose first off, to be aware that at any given moment, we are the ones that are choosing where to place our focus in our reality. So we are choosing where we invest our energy, our time, all these things, right? Consciously and unconsciously. I then committed to go all in with living a flow-based life my way. And for me, I call this true self alchemy. My version of it is true self alchemy. What that means for me and my perspective of it, and this came through in part conversations we've had together. It came through lifelong journeys with things like, I was about to go into listing many of the teachers and such, but let's just say I committed much of my life to introspection and getting curious about the nature of reality and how we work in it. And what I found is that it's quite simple. It's a commitment to the truth as I am. And what that means to me is I believe we are built to prosper naturally. Like, I believe we are built, we are born, we are built to prosper. And the things that stand in between us in a perceived way, between us and any kind of prosperity, would be the beliefs, thoughts, the attachments we have that we invest focus and energy in that are out of resonance with, as you put it, what I am. So my choice to go on and share on the channel was built from starting at the fundamental root of being committed to my version of a joyful flow-based life. For me, that included things like humor, that included things like integrity, spending time with other people of integrity and humor. That included things like having meaningful conversations like this. It also included time meandering in the forest.
Yeah.
It turns out that I love meandering. I love it.
I'm a fan of that as well.
And so instead
This is
of
a great place to meander.
it,
We had a great time meandering yesterday, and the bee chased us out, or didn't chase us out. We just thought it chased us out. It was actually aiming to get to know us because it was interesting. It was following us, and then it started to come closer and closer.
it did.
And then I reacted to a belief about bees, and then I released the identification to it. And you actually have some bees over there that come and drink water that you put for the bees. That's so wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you have a very magical life here. It's a magical place. I feel the magical energy.
Yes,
And the forest does speak to you here.
it does.
I experience it myself. I experience the animals speaking to me here. I experience the bees speaking to me here. And everything appears to be in harmony here, in support of each other, which I believe is the true nature of existence.
Yes.
And the way you articulate it is precise, is you discovered that, you share that with everyone on your channel, and that inspires them to also experience that, which is what they truly desire to experience, although it could be a different kind of experience. Because for you, it's this wonderful forest where you feel at home and resident here. This is your exact place where you desire to be. You actually had looked for a number of properties.
Yes, I did.
And you ended up, there's a wonderful story about how you discovered this place and talking with the forest. And can you share that? You shared with me that the forest invited you to live here.
Yeah, it did. So what I have found is that we are in constant communion with any space that we're in. And it doesn't have to be a forest. Like, you can be in communion where you are. There it is. And I had this intuition and insight when I was looking for spaces as to this would be a space not only for me to live, but for me to do my life's work.
Yeah.
I was very aware of this, even before I was fully cognizant of what that involved.
Yes.
So I had this insight to speak to the trees on any land that I was exploring, because they were the actual keepers of the space.
Yes.
Both metaphorically and literally.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I spoke to the land when I came here. I shared my vision. And by the time I found this place, I had a more clarified vision that is harmonious to what's happening on my channel right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I simply said, if you're in, I'm in, and I won't just be a landowner here. I will steward, we will collaborate.
Yes.
And I felt the agreement. And then everything with having the property come to me was effortless.
Yes.
Up until that point, not effortless seeming, but it was flow-based to get me and to this place here.
I love how you didn't settle. You knew what it felt like when you found your home. That was how, when I had my first house, it was the same thing. When I walked in, I felt at home there. I don't own that house anymore. That was part of that step in that particular part of my journey. So it's a wonderful story. And this is the place that you feel resonant with and at home with, and you found it.
Yes.
And part of this is now, it's become a flow enhancer for you.
It has. Well, the forest collaborates on the videos.
Yes.
Because I perceive that, nature, animals, however you want to look at it, want to collaborate with us ultimately. And that if we work together harmoniously, we can actually amplify each other. So kind of connecting it back to, what am I amplifying, right?
Yes. Yes. And I love your style of videos too. You grab a camera and you put it over there. You walk through the forest. It's completely free flowing, like how we're doing right here. It's what I did with the mind maps. That was my style of doing things.
Yes.
It felt the most natural. That might be natural for one person. Another way might be natural for another person. This is the wonderful thing about YouTube, is when we discover our way, it ends up resonating with the particular people that are looking for that way. As I always say, who you desire desires you. And then it's a resonant match. And what ends up resulting from that is you create a wonderful business, you have a wonderful lifestyle, you meet wonderful people, you have wonderful experiences like this.
Yeah.
And the core of that is being as I am. So what that means is, as you discovered this, and you discuss this as well as I discuss it all throughout the videos, is as we release these untrue, illusory, unreal beliefs, we know what this is for us. And it could be living in a forest, or it could be living in a city. Overall, everybody plays a harmonious role on heaven on earth. Would you agree with that? How do you relate to that, if you agree with it? Do you agree with it?
I do agree with it. Well, as I said, I perceive we're all built to prosper and thrive.
Yes.
So when I hear flow-based living, it's not that I am reflecting to people, all right, everyone, get a forest. The core of what I share with people is really less of a methodology and more about how to release the identification with what is not you, so that you can give yourself full permission to go in with what is you, and therefore you prosper. And if everyone is doing that, we all naturally fill the roles in which we prosper.
Yeah.
And then we naturally harmonize as communities and as a world in which we all mutually prosper. How do you relate to that?
I relate ideally to that. One of the things I think about is, as I have, and you have as well, we've had a number of conversations, and I trust everyone here has as well, release these identification to these illusory beliefs, these unreal beliefs, these untrue beliefs. We find that body naturally flows where body flows. Like, for example, the trees flowing. You have a stream over there is flowing. Everything flows naturally and ideally. And that's magical, because what we were always looking for, we discover we already had. So we could say we stop seeking for it, yet then it appears all these things get added onto you. So what got added onto you was your channel grew naturally from being authentic and sharing your style of the message. And everybody has their style. So that's one of the things that I teach as well, is what is your style of, if you feel inspired to create content on YouTube. It could be YouTube, it could be TikTok, it could be Instagram, it could be blogs, it could be not even online, it could be offline. I've worked with many entrepreneurs, and I always aim to facilitate that. And part of the facilitation of that, you could say, that also happens automatically. By me living this way, people appear this way. And so with your audience, I find that, and I've seen the transformations that you facilitate as well, that also ends up being that way.
Indeed.
Although you have a facilitation process, that's part of the theater. So you take people on a journey, and what happens is they appear to come out on the other side having released these identifications to be more from the premise of true nature, their style. Can you talk about your process? It's a magical, wonderful process.
Yes, I would love to.
Yes.
What I do is I arrive from the point of embodiment. So, and you've been able to witness this in the experiences of flow we have. As I share is as I live. So what I am reflecting and resonating may come through with the clarity it does, because it is coming through from the deepest and most clear core of my being. And this is how I relate. So whatever it is that I perceive that you may have to teach in the world, it comes from the core of your being when you are as you are, which is why you're built to prosper. So my process is essentially the alchemical process of, first, the awareness that we are empowered creators who have the ability to make choice.
Yeah.
Our empowerment comes from the process of being able to guide our focus wherever it is that we are at any given moment. So at any given present moment, your ability to focus is your power as a creator. From there, I assist in people being able to be present with all elements of themselves. You say something fantastic. You say no shame, no condemnation. Well, for most people at that juncture of the journey, some people call it the shadow work. The places where they feel that they may not look or they may not accept, that's usually one of the steps where they do not give themselves permission to be as I am. So we are aware with that, and I have several approaches in which I facilitate that, but the most simple one is being as I am, you be as you are. And so the process is effortless because there's no shame or blame here, and then you are aware that that can be for you as well. And then beyond that, we clarify the values with ease. And then there's the commitment to go all in with what you have now chosen. And in that way, you discover how effortlessly reality lines up in synchronicity. And so this is the top-down view of the process, which happens always synchronistically.
Yeah.
And always in ways that meet a person or a group of people where they are at. And so it may always take the form that is appropriate at the time. Thus the alchemy.
Yeah, so I love how you articulated that, because it may look very different, even radically different,
Yes.
for one person versus another, yet you flow with it, because that all of that is happening automatically. It's happening very naturally.
Yes.
The facilitation happens, right?
Yes.
It happens. It appears that way. This is the key. It appears that it's happening. Yet, Danielle, we could say, I relax into being as I am. So Danielle surrenders into the sure foundation, and then everything happens. And it appears as a person going through a transformation.
Indeed.
And so it could be some art, it could be freestyle. Like, what are some of the things that you've seen happen?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, what happens is many times people will meet me consciously or unconsciously when they are at a brink of a transformation. So this could be when they are deciding to shift careers or to step in a new way in their business or change relationships, or maybe even a spiritual awakening. And so the premise with which people find me might vary, although I have just opportunities for people to have a call with me. And then the actual process of transmutation can sometimes start as a conversation or perhaps a hypnotherapy experience with which I do facilitate. But then from there, what will sometimes happen is we identify a project or a chief aim or something that truly delights them. And then through the process of deciding, this is in reality. Notice we don't create it. We don't go after it. We attune to where it is. Then from that point forward, it's almost as though we are teleporting together, or reality is shifting around us to reveal what was already there. And so again, that can take the place of sometimes we have calls, or sometimes actually very soon I was going to facilitate retreat experiences in the forest as well. And through those calls and through these portals and sometimes chats, people will share with me what happens. I'll share an experience, and they'll go through a series of incidents, a bridge of incidents, which then helps them arrive back at an initial place we talked about, and suddenly an understanding.
Yes.
Now, that is one way it happens, but really it's whatever permission slip allows a person to disengage from a pattern that is complete and allows them to be their most empowered I am in the moment. And so it will look exactly as it is for each person or group. And that's why it's so magical.
Yeah. And you articulated it wonderfully.
Yes.
And it actually happened right now.
We surfed into
there's berries right there. I didn't see them. I was looking.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh,
I didn't
you're
know.
correct. Look at this.
So there were berries there the whole time.
Yeah.
You bring delight, you facilitate delight.
Wonderful.
And the individual experiences delight. We could say delight was always there. The berries were always there. It's symbolism to me.
Yeah.
I notice this a lot being around you, is when we have these conversations, delight appears.
Yes.
It was always there, then it becomes apparent, and then all of a sudden I see it.
Yes.
And it could be something like that, berries, because consider this, for many thousands of years, it would be very delightful for a human being who is looking for food to find berries in a forest.
Indeed.
Now we say it's very delightful for a human being to find an income source or revenue stream. It's the same kind of thing. You just facilitated, and I saw it. So this is an actual testimony of that. Yeah.
There it is. I love that.
And I love how artful it is. It's the same way that I do with entrepreneurs, because the individual might be thinking it needs to be this way or that way, or it has to be this way. And what is being talked about here is even releasing that, releasing the bias that it needs to be this way or that way, or it has to be this, because that could be limiting. And even that, I'll say, it could be. The answer is depends. So what ends up happening is, like you, I have an exploratory conversation. And you can do this as well. We all actually do this. I trust everyone does this. This is one of the gifts. I released the video on Tuesday, which I'll link to in the description, is on spiritual gifts. So this is your spiritual gift. And you have many spiritual gifts. You have many spiritual gifts. And what happens is they automatically happen.
Yes.
And they end up being in harmony and in contribution. So it could be that we do this. It could be that we do that. And that's one of my favorite things of facilitating is I know that I don't actually facilitate. We can take it a step further. I do nothing. I can't of myself do nothing. The Father would then do it to work. I simply remain as I am. And then it appears as what I say, what I do, what I don't do. And part of this is as you appear to do things, you allow yourself to do the thing, let's say, that you appear to do. So you're doing it through facilitation and also very practically. Yes. Think of a person who would like to start a conversation with a prospect during a sales opportunity. Yes. If they allow themselves to be, if they release the identification, the conversation will flow. Yes. In an ideally, mutually beneficial way. Certainly, if we remove the bias of it needs to be this way or this outcome or this or that, we will actually experience delight. And it could appear this way, where you start a conversation with the prospect and they say, I'm not interested in doing the deal with you. And you are not identified with that. You don't say, oh, this doesn't mean that, this means I'm not going to succeed. You don't identify with it. By that I mean very specifically, you don't identify with that untrue thought of limitation. Do not limit the limitless one. So we don't identify with that, and then the appearance changes. How can it change? So again, I don't want to put bias into it. One of the ways it could appear that I've seen appear, I trust you've seen this with what you do and also the clients you've worked with before, is that particular prospect may refer business to them. Yes. And the business that that particular prospect refers to them ends up being the ideal client. And through these, we could say, stacking up, the business grows to success. Yes. You've seen this happen many times, right?
I have, and I'd love to add on to that because I very much resonate with what you're sharing. So, I also have a proficiency as a high-ticket sales closer, of which I did a lot of that for my agency and in other pursuits. Yes. And what I found is in this current iteration of my beingness, it is more of what you described, which is a flow-based magnetism through not only identifying, but embodying the ideal outcome for all involved. Yes. And so I have found that as I embody, and I am one of the reasons I actually would say my videos have connected the way they have is because I, before shooting the videos, connect from the place of my heart source and speak to what is resonant. And this is the quality I bring, whether I am sharing in a perceived large format or one-on-one. We always, when coming from this perspective, everyone wins. And when you do it as you have suggested, which is releasing the identification or expectation, the most auspicious connections will happen in the most auspicious timing.
Yes, yes. That is ideal. So, and you get to live this now. Yes. You live this way and you have conversations with people via YouTube videos like I do with everyone here. And again, link in the description to the second part of this conversation on Danielle's channel. And one of the things that comes to mind is I say it this way. I say, I can always be more as I am or more as I am. How do you relate to that? So anybody, like one more context piece to that is, there doesn't seem to be a limit to the limitless one.
Indeed.
How do you relate?
Very well. Well, one of the things I speak a lot about is the concept of paradox, which is this perspective. So like you say, I am all that I am, but simultaneously I can be more as I am. Well, how could that be if I am all as I am? Yeah. But my experience of reality, and one thing I share with people is, as we embrace paradox. So for example, the paradox for some, well, how can I how can I be a joyful, loving person if I also feel sadness? Well, you can be all these things because you are all that is. And in embracing the totality, then who you truly are shines through. And in that way, you are discovering then, oh, there is more that I am. And through the nature of both being all that you are and through the continuous dance of life, you also are invited to discover all the more I am. And so this is how I relate to it.
That is ideally related to, I like to relate to the Bible. I and the Father are one, yet the Father is greater than I. So there's always greater delight. The individual may say, this emotion is a bad emotion, or this emotion means, in whatever negative label.
Yes.
Everything can be a source of delight. Even if it might not appear that way now. Even if it appears challenging now. Certainly I've been through many challenging situations. You've been through many challenging situations.
Yes.
Yet there's always delight there. So in the Bible it says, do not judge by appearances, but by righteous judgment. So the Father is greater than I, so there's always greater delight. We are always experiencing greater and greater delight if we allow ourselves to experience greater and greater delight. So the reconciliation of how can I experience this and that is, we can say, a non-issue when we be still. I relax into knowing that I am transcending that experience and then actually witnessing delight there. How do you relate to that?
Oh, very, very well. I love how you explained it because in my perspective, we are saying something of this resonating, I'm going to say resonating resonance, but we're saying something with a tuning fork, right? It resonates very similarly. This is what I hear when I hear what you are saying. So yes.
And this is the wonderful thing about what you're doing, and I encourage everyone to do this, is we all have our distinct ways of articulating this message.
Yes.
And I don't consider one articulation better than another articulation because, again, I release that identification. They're all wonderful articulations. You have a wonderful articulation. These articulations seem to stem from personal experience in relation to the sure foundation. So the sure foundation, I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, from which all that is delightful springs from, through individual experience and then individual articulations of that experience. And so you do that with your channel. So what are some of these things that have been added onto you that you would like to explore and graciously share with everyone today?
Yes. Oh, thank you for that opportunity. You know, what I would love to amplify and offer to anyone who feels attuned to listening to this is that indeed, it's my perspective that whatever it is that is your delight, your expression of delight in this world, that it's not only possible for you, it's inevitable to you, for you, as you. And what I would say further than that, because I understand there's many perspectives out there of how this may be so, right? There's manifestation, there's this, that. I'd like to make it even simpler and offer this as a perspective for empowerment, for who resonates. And it's that our ability to simply be aware that we are making choices in every moment and to give ourselves that permission to experiment and play with life, to not take any of the specifics so seriously, while simultaneously giving ourselves permission to go all in with exploring what we truly want, is the delight I have experienced. We are, in my expression, all magicians and alchemists at play ultimately. And I perceive anyone who's tuned into the resonances that I share as a master at play in whatever point of your story you are in. And so it's my wish for you, if there is one to be made, that you give yourself the fullest consent to live your delight, because it is available to you here and now, moment to moment.
And so what's something that someone can do right now, or not do, to, you could say, step into that or appear to step into that?
Yes. Wonderful, wonderful question. So at any given moment, and of course, we're all at our own various moments and various experiences, what I find we can do at any given moment is come to this present moment. And if it feels good to you, this is one of the things that I facilitate sometimes, that if it feels good to you, what you can do right now is just take a breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. I find intentional breaths are one of the keys that can bring us to the present moment. And the reason that's so powerful is now that you're here in this present moment, wherever you are, you can say to yourself, you can say, I commit from this point to be curious with myself and connect to what truly delights me, whether or not I know what the next step looks like. In each moment from this place forward, I am curious and committing to honoring the true delight inside of me. And if that resonates for you, and if you say that and mean that, you will experience a bridge of incidents from here that allow you to go deeper and deeper in each moment. Because remember, it's not about a future idea. It's about the way you approach each and every moment with that awareness that you always have a pathway to delight. So that would be my offering an opportunity to you here, powerful creator.
That is a powerful intention and a very precise path of delight facilitator. Thank you for that.
It's an honor, Joseph. You are super cool, and our friend here is very super cool as well.
We're all super cool because part of this is to only imagine delightfully. So what you shared appears as a step. So if you're watching this, then you've already taken the step. This is a part of the bridge of incidents.
Yes.
It's already done, because in the beginning, God said, let there be light, and the light was, as in pure delight is the true nature of existence. It's already done. Ultimately, the individual appears to go down this journey to find delight more and more so, like a treasure hunt, like finding berries, for example.
Yes.
And that's a wonderful experience. And then we appear to facilitate that with each other. We're all pointing to delight. So you're pointing to delight in your very distinct way. I point to delight in a distinct way. You point to delight in a very distinct way. How do you relate to that?
Wonderfully, delightfully.
Yes. So this is real time.
Yes.
I want to go meta to this. This is a real time conversation that you can have with a person.
Yes.
I recommend having these conversations often. It's also a conversation you can have with yourself. And this is the conversation that you have with the forest.
Exactly.
Because the forest speaks of delight, gives delight.
Yes.
And so when you're here, you experience delight because it speaks delightfully, as it only knows delight. And then, again, the human might think, well, what about this? What about that? Once we release those illusory beliefs, we'll see clearly, and it can appear more and more so each moment. Certainly, it did for me since 2004 with Think and Grow Rich, and it continues to do so. Because I and the Father are one, yet the Father is greater than I. So there's always greater delight, so it appears that way. So the forest, it happened with me as well. I calibrated, I acclimated to the experience here and experienced more delight, which is, again, part of my bridge of incidents. So you do this with the forest as well. Can you speak to that?
Yes, very much so. Well, much of what I teach when I'm doing my teaching work, or I could say this even more clearly, in my embodiment that I reflect, one of the things that I embody is discernment and the ability to experience truth embodied, so grounded and rooted in the body. When I am walking in the forest, when any of us walks anywhere, we are not only embodied in our body, but should we allow ourselves to be aware of it, we are also connected to this greater body of the earth. So in my act of simply being embodiment, in my act of being embodiment and aware in the present moment, like the exercise that we did just a few moments ago, I am able to not only feel sensations, understandings, and actually sometimes creative inspirations come through.
Yeah.
I can also feel and experience what appears to me to be the reflections of the environment, the tree, the animals around us. And I'm certain that for many who tune in, they may know they have wonderful relationships with their pets. They may know they have wonderful connections, with all kinds of people. And so if they feel inspired to explore for themselves, you may just be very present in nature and listen without expectation and see what happens.
Yes, I love that. Be present without expectation.
Yes.
Because nature doesn't lie. It's always revealing the truth, thus.
Yes.
It's always revealing delight. And the forest sees you delightfully. Yeah. So as you continue to see yourself delightfully, you reflect delight everywhere. And that resonance allows for more clarity to arise.
Yes.
And this can also be done, as mentioned, in whatever ways for you. Like, for example, I experience it in conversations.
Yes.
I also experience it in nature. I experience it in snowboarding. I recommend, and you and I talked about this as well, creating a list of flow enhancers. Because sometimes we may forget this, we could say simple truth, because we may be very identified to the inharmonious thoughts that are untrue in relation to the past or in relation to a future event, let's say, in mind.
Yes.
And thus be missing the present, which the word is very precise, present.
Yes.
The delight in the moment.
There it is. The gift.
Yes. Yes. Delight now. Delight now. That might be a good auto-suggestion, right? Delight now.
It is. I like that. Delight now. I am delight now. Delight now. Delight now. Wonderful. To add to that, because I know there's been a lot of discourse about being present, and it can be easy for us to feel as though it's challenging to be present. What I sometimes invite to people, if that's so, is that may be an indicator that you are more of yourself. I am more of yourself is being invited to be present and simply to be aware of. So if we remove identification to what we are feeling and experiencing the present moment, we can be as I am, and then presence is more and more natural with each and every present moment until you don't experience resistance anymore, and instead you are in the flow and present.
Yes, that is very insightful. You relax more and more so each moment into the flow.
Yes.
You relax into knowing and remaining as I am.
Yes.
And then we know true nature. We witness true nature. It appears more so as a flow-based journey. So then we can say that's the way to remain in our flow. That's one of the ways, a wonderful way, as you had articulated. I wanted to ask you a few questions now in relation to that.
Of course.
Do you have some flow enhancer routines, rituals, things that you do that you find to be flow enhancers?
Yes, I do actually. So one of the things I do is I carefully cultivate my evenings and mornings. This is the time where our subconscious can be the most susceptible to autosuggestion.
Yes.
So what I've done is created, and I'll experiment sometimes, but I create essentially a routine for my subconscious that includes my I am autosuggestions. And to be clear, I've gotten more and more simple with it over the years. A lot of it is just about I am enjoying my curiosity. I am flow. I am connecting easily with my intuition. I am delighted that there's so much interesting things happening. More so than even specifically, sometimes I am doing this specific or that specific thing, which allows me to connect with the subconscious at a process level versus an outcome level, which I find has been very effective at being able to be versatile in day-to-day life, regardless of opportunity. So evening and nighttime auto-suggestion. And you can also listen. Some of your wonderful videos are excellent for auto-suggestion, I would say. And I've also put together a few videos for auto-suggestion for those who resonate. Another thing that I do is I have relationship with myself. And what that means is I will talk to myself. So not just through the subconscious, but I will greet myself in the morning. I will invite myself to share what I'm excited about. I will check with my body. I will ask what it wants to be nourished with. And in this way, I develop this harmonious, flow-based way of moving and checking in the world. And in the beginning, it was a habit to build, and now it is nature.
Yes. I like how you said that. In the beginning, it could appear as a habit to build. Why is that the case? For whatever the reason, we've created these beliefs that are untrue. We no longer need to identify with them.
Yes.
And as we release them, reality is experienced. And by that I mean very specifically what we're referring to. This is reality. We can call it reality rigged in your favor, all in harmony, heaven on earth. That's reality. It is actually experienced through the release if the individual has been identified with these untrue beliefs. If they have not, then this is all they know, which is bliss, true nature. Yet, no shame and condemnation. I was very identified with particular beliefs that resulted in a lot of suffering, stress, frustration, and I benefited greatly from doing practices like this, which again, as you mentioned very precisely, in the earlier stages, the auto-suggestions were, let's say, longer, more artful, even though I still recommend it. We did a discussion on 14 language patterns.
Oh, yes.
Why that is helpful is, I believe transformation can be joyous. We don't need to trigger the beliefs. We can actually release identification to the beliefs through artful communication. How do you relate to that?
Yeah, very, very, very well. And sometimes I will actually incorporate a longer auto-suggestion if it feels delightful. And
Yes.
this is actually part of the process, or you could say the experience of being as I am,
Yeah.
because there is no limitation to being as I am. So I am saying short auto-suggestions. Now I am sharing a whole story of auto-suggestions
Yes.
because this is how I am.
Because we can relate to it this way. There's I am, the foundational, sure foundation from which everything arises from, that is delightful. And then there's what the individual that appears, which is designed in the perfect image of the Creator to experience delight, choosing to either consciously or subconsciously identify with that is illusory, not real, untrue. So the auto-suggestions release those identifications, which are stored in the subconscious mind. Blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. So as the mind is purified through these kinds of practices, reality is experienced. A true nature is experienced.
True
Everything
self.
appears, yes, true self. Everything appears synchronistically to be in synchronicity, more so each moment with increasing frequency on a continuous basis.
Yes.
As far as the senses perceive, reality is experienced. And so I like how you were saying that, and this has been my experience in the earlier stages, maybe some, let's say, lengthier auto-suggestions to release that.
Yes.
Then at a particular point, like one you shared here, inspired, was, I am delightful.
Yes.
Or we could even simply be still.
Yes.
How do you relate to that?
Yes, I relate to that very, very well. And, you know, adding to that, expanding onto that, and I feel this is an important part, and it's something that I experience that we embody, you know, as individuals, but also in the times that we've had adventure together, is it's also releasing attachment to flow or synchronicity. And this is the paradox, right?
Yeah.
So the funny thing is we can have an idea of what synchronicity is, but that is not itself synchronicity. It's just pointing towards it. So as we are in, and this is my experience, you can share if this resonates, but as I am in my flow, a great deal of that is a simultaneous embrace of what is, because what appears, whether or not I immediately recognize it as synchronicity, it is. And so then in each and every moment, I may meet it, which is why presence is one of our most powerful ways of being, should you decide to fully embody flow mastery, being as I am, self-alchemy. And this is my experience. How do you relate?
I relate ideally. I relate ideally that to not judge by appearances and not form an identity around, let's say, a practice. I used to do this back in the days, and then I stopped doing this because I realized it was creating identification, which was, if, okay, this is synchronicity, that is synchronicity, and so now this has to happen, that has to happen. So again, then I'm not being as I am. Well, more accurately put, I am always being as I am. I have now created an illusion of separation from the fact.
Yes.
To experience that, no shame and condemnation, to see what it's like.
Yes.
Having come to this realization, we release it. We say, okay, let there be light, let the light be. So synchronicity appears. And then what happens is everything appears synchronistically to be in synchronicity. I trust you've experienced this as well.
Yes.
So you experience life this way, because I experience this when I'm with you.
Yes.
Every experience I've ever had with you, even on the coaching calls, even in flow-based prosperity, from my experience, it's always been an increasing more and more so delight.
Yes.
With everyone that I'm around. And so the delightful experiences with you are very magical synchronicities. And they are also very relatable for the entrepreneur.
Yes.
Because you can do this in entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Because it could be interpreted, and I used to think this way as well, that entrepreneurship is controlling things to get an outcome, and there's this logic, which there is logic. It's what we're speaking about is allowing that to naturally unfold. In other words, you genuinely desire to be an entrepreneur. Yes. Because that's what you genuinely desire. And so as we release the illusions of separation, we can say entrepreneurship happens. Yes. How do you relate to that?
Very, very well. And that is my experience, that at its core, entrepreneurship is you could say, an embodied flow of service, of resource. It's from a certain perspective, it's just a system of flow in which we dance and participate in. Mm-hmm. When we are approaching it from a place of being as I am and synchronicity, then we no longer grasp at what we think we need to do, while simultaneously being able to have clear objectives, approaches, and outcomes. Yes. So it's, again, the paradox, because it's not so much like, oh, I'll just see what happens. We can choose and we can resonate, but the way with which we go about it is no longer force-based, trying to make something happen. Mm-hmm. Instead, it's opportunity, presence, and synchronicity-based, being aware that in each and every moment as we are navigating, we can let go of appearances while simultaneously making both data and synchronicity choices. It's very fun.
Yes. And this happens automatically while you're in flow. Yes. It may seem like contradictory to diverge and converge. Actually, you reconcile that while you're in flow. That's why I always say make flow a priority. Now, you've done it to such a degree to the point where you've partnered with the forest. Yes. You literally partnered with the forest. I would like you to share your story about conversations with the forest and collaborating that you shared with me.
Of course.
I trust everyone will benefit greatly from the degree that this can be done, to the point where we collaborate with nature. Yes. We work with nature. The land gives to us, we give to the land. Everything is in harmony.
Yes, wonderful. Well, thank you for that, Joseph. I'll speak to my experience, because of course this is the one that I'm embodying, and then I trust that you can relate in the way that is appropriate for you. So, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I had identified ways of being that are natural to myself, some of which included having time simply being in the forest. And when I was coming at it from a place of mental identification, there was this part of me attempting to figure, well, how could that be? How could I create something? I even joked with the forest, do I just sell the sticks, or, what what is this? Being flow-based in the forest, being as I am, and then also living the prosperous life that I know.
That could seem like a very logical conclusion.
does.
Okay, how do we collaborate with the forest? Do we cut you down and turn you into sticks?
Yes, the sticks.
Yet it didn't appear that way.
No, it did not. And say that was also, the berries. Do I do the berries?
Yeah.
And a few ideas came to mind, but what ultimately arose was I committed to being so curious about what was possible that I allowed myself to even release identification with exactly who I thought I needed to be as an entrepreneur or as a strategist, which I had been for the last decade or more.
You may even release identification to the term entrepreneur, because it could mean all these things.
Exactly. And so what I did from that point is I said, all right, now I'm committed to the flow-based life. And I have this knowing, because it is so synchronistic for me to be here, I have this knowing that this all comes together. And so what I did, once I was in that place of presence, and once I was curious, because this is key, the more, and this is why I teach perspectives on my channel, because the more we open our perspectives, it's not about judging them one way or another, but it's about realizing that as we see the field of potential diamonds, we can say, this one looks nice. It's not a this or. So in being in this space of curiosity and openness, while also being grounded and committed to living what was my version of a prosperous life, I meditated a bit in the forest. And for me, that was just a gentle walking. Meditation for me at that place was just no thought or just being immersed and walking.
Yeah. And
then I felt, like the speaking to the forest speaking. And I'm like, wouldn't that be funny if the forest had a YouTube channel, had a YouTube. And then I was like, well, I have one and I had always enjoyed doing this. And I asked the forest in my way, which was simply to be in my heart and hold the image, hold the imagination of the reality of the forest and I collaborating. And I experienced such a thrill in my whole being. It was like a kid going, oh,
yeah.
Oh, this sounds delightful. And so I said, all right, let's create. And I started to get inspirations of, well, what if I did videos? Well, what if I, and allowed myself to be playful with it to the point with where we've arrived at this place where now not only do I share these videos in service and synchronicity and mutual harmony, but I am about to open my alchemy lab as well, which is a beautiful community.
That's exciting.
It is.
Would you like to speak more about that?
I would. So, and at the time, I view these videos as always timeless. So at whatever time you're finding this video, I imagine it's the resonant moment, but I am, you could say, it's not even a creation, it's simply an is. This understanding of the alchemy lab, a group of us who are choosing to create in this very aware, focused, deliberate way, create not from a place of creating outward, but to be our true selves, and through that naturalness, reality shift, so to speak, in ways, and although it might sound very mystical, it's actually very, very grounded, very practical. So what if it feels resonant, we'll have some ways that people can explore that.
Yeah, we'll put some links in the description.
Yes, and I'll simply say if it resonates with you, you'll know and you'll feel the draw. But I'm very excited about this because I do perceive anyone who's tuned in here is most certainly an alchemist or a magician of their reality.
Certainly. I've met many from this channel and we all share this commonality. Yes. And so we all relate ideally to everything you've been sharing. And I would like to further explore the collaboration with the forest.
Yes.
Because you discovered this way through the relationship with the forest to collaborate in a mutually harmonious way.
Yes.
Which ends up being the forest gives you insights, perspectives.
Yes.
You share it through the channel. The forest energy is being experienced by your audience.
Yes.
They benefit greatly from that. And I also benefited greatly from this experience and continuing to do so right now. And so that's one of the reasons why I chose to record the video here, is to share this with you so you can experience this. I trust you experience this. This is experiential. And it is a collaboration with nature. It's a respectful, mutually harmonious collaboration with nature.
Yes.
because nature has a voice, nature speaks. We speak about the still small voice. Well, I experienced the still small voice as we were walking yesterday, and I didn't share this, but in the hotel that I'm staying, which is about 30 minutes away, so you drive about 30 minutes to get to Danielle's place. I had such a profound inner voice conversation. I woke in the middle of the night, and so many insights arose, and also had a profound emotional release.
Oh, amazing.
Yes.
I found that to be so in the forest space. May I add to this?
Yes, please.
You know, when I first came to the forest, when I meditated with it, I asked, well, what are we, how are we working together? And immediately I had this idea of this will help you balance your parasympathetic nervous system, which was very interesting because I actually then Googled what a parasympathetic nervous system was, but that is how it came through. And then through the relation with the forest, my experiences both of connecting with it, in these ways of the heart, but also tending to it, like I have called arborists, or I tend to it in the way that's also very loving and caring of it. So when I was exploring this collaboration with the forest, I communicated to it. I said, I would love to continue to steward. Just keep in mind, the stewarding of the land for humans involves resource, and it involves this and this, which is why I was joking about what are we doing with the sticks? And and when this insight came through, it was an ability for us to all mutually benefit, because of course, through the resource that comes through in part, then the forest also benefits through my ability to tend to it and to bring in, where appropriate, specialists for the trees and take care of the space.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
The land provides for us, so we partner with the land.
Yes.
And it's a wonderful relationship. And it even converts or transmutes into monetary benefits. So I know it's in harmony with physical money as well. What do I mean by that? Or let's say any form of currency.
Yes.
We don't use a lot of paper money nowadays. Some might. But what I'm referring to is prosperity, as you said, prosperity. So practically speaking, you collaborated with, all of this is practical, but even more, let's say, for the entrepreneur who may be thinking, okay, what are ways of collaborating with the forest? Well, let's explore your wonderful experience. You collaborated with the forest. You create videos together.
Yes.
Your channel grew. Yes. It resulted in you doing these services and workshops, and everybody benefits greatly. Yes. And it's real prosperity coming your way. People joining your services, your channel got monetized. This is a wonderful demonstration of partnering with nature, and I trust this conversation is inspiring you to do the same. And I'm glad we're recording this, because many will watch this video here and on your channel for years and decades to come as a source of inspiration of what's possible. So you embody true alchemy, certainly, inner and outer as one, harmonious relationship, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and you have this oneness relationship between the inner and outer, where everything works harmoniously in your favor. So congratulations. How can one also experience that or bring themselves to that point?
Yes. Well, the wonderful thing in my experience, first off, thank you. I received this, Joseph. And although maybe it doesn't need to be said, I will say it anyway. I experienced this with you as well, which is the mutual flow amplifiers that we are being. So thank you for that.
Well.
And for also our friend and our friends tuning in. Well, let's tune in for a moment to the forest. Let's see. One of the things that I learned from the trees is that, as you say, they are as they are, and yet everything gets done. Without much seeming movement, they go through the cycles of nature. They are as they are. They allow the leaves to drop when it's time to drop. They allow new growth to happen in rhythm. And as such, we have rhythms to our individual lives and our greater lives. And the more we embrace being in the flow is also understanding that we don't need to control things. The more we tune in, the more we understand all things, as you have said before, added on to you, just being in this way that we are. And so I just invite to you, on some level, here and now, you are already this flow master, just coming into greater and greater degrees of remembering. And so may you experience that in all the ways that delight you, because the ways that delight you may not look the same way as this. Maybe your flow is the desert or the ocean, or maybe even in the city. We can flow in the city. So wherever you are, may you always remember your flow and the ways that delight you. And thank you, Joseph, very much for your wisdom. It continues to be an honor to have learned from you, learn alongside you, to be your friend, and to experience, as you have put it, a first-class journey. When we first connected, you invoked that, well, let's have a first-class journey. And boy, did not only a first-class...
This is certainly first class.
This is a first-class journey. This is flying on a first-class dragon for me, which for me is even better than an airplane. So...
Yes.
So thank you for that, Joseph. I appreciate you, and I imagine we all do as well.
Thank you. Thank you for the acknowledgement, and acknowledgements to you as well for what you are doing here, the wonderful service you're doing, and everyone that's benefiting greatly from your service. And this is just a beginning for you, because I foresee many more collaborations with the forest.
Yes.
I can feel it right now.
Yeah.
Forest is very excited. We're all excited for you. Thank you so much for dedicating some time to share with us your sacred space. Thank you, Forrest, for sharing with us delight. And thank you for sharing your wisdom, your insights, your perspective, your journey with us. As mentioned, we also have another video in the description on Danielle's channel where we're going to continue this conversation, maybe different perspectives. All this that you have shared and more on Danielle's channel, I recommend checking it out. Now, where you explore this from many different perspectives, angles. It is a gold mine, a forest field, a forest. Is that how you say it? Forest field.
Forest field. It sounds like something I would say, but
okay. So we call it forest field. It's a forest field of wisdom.
Yeah.
It's timeless wisdom that has always been here, and ready to share with us. It's infused in your videos. I certainly experience it when I watch your videos. I listen to what you say, and then I also feel the energy around you and what's being communicated, and it's a wonderful symphony. It's like, for example, let's just say you were communicating and you had music in the background.
Oh, yes,
You can make videos where someone's talking and they have music to match in the background.
Yes.
That's how I experience your videos, with the music of nature.
I love that.
And it's all synchronistic and harmonious infused in there. So check out Danielle's channel. Thank you very much, Danielle.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate you so much.
Appreciate you too.